Welcome to the Your Brilliant Difference podcast. It is Finka Yurkovic here. I am so delighted that you've made some time to be with me here today. Now, I've got a special treat for you. Last week, I hosted a Self from Love Fireside chat with 3 of my Self from Love coaching clients. We talked about what it's been like to be an entrepreneur, what their journey has been like, and the transformational impact the self from love philosophy has had on their leadership, on their business, and on their impact. Now, if you want to learn more, you've got to tune in. You'll hear 3 stories, one from Kate, one from Jennifer, and one from Stephanie. Now, if you're someone who's considering taking the leap from corporate, you're going to want to tune in. Stephanie's got some advice and wisdom to share with you. If you're someone who has a really flourishing business, but you've got this impulse to do something different, perhaps create a passion project, you're going to want to tune in and hear Jennifer's story. Or if you're someone who's been in business for some time now, and you're looking to deepen your body of work and strengthen your expertise, you're going to want to hear Kate Bonnycastle's story. So I'm so excited for you to tune in and listen in on this fireside chat that I had the opportunity to have with 3 of my Self from Love coaching clients. And I'm hoping you're going to walk away with insights and inspiration that move you towards action for those dreams and those goals that you are, that are percolating for you, or you've been dreaming up, or you want to create in 2024. So again, head on over, listen to the episode, and I can't wait to hear what you take away. Welcome to the Self from Love Fireside Chat, where I'm super excited that you are here with me with these 3 lovely leaders in their business, Kate Bonnycastle, Jennifer Walker-Gates, and Stephanie Edward. We're going to have an opportunity. The agenda for our conversation today is really to hear about their business journey and how they had started their business, how they made the big decision, how they transitioned through that stage and continue to be in transition. We'll talk a little bit about how the Self from Love method helped them step into their leadership and impact. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about words of wisdom that they have to pay it forward, to teach it forward, to share with us here today. So let's kick it off. Kate, can I get you to introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit about yourself and your business? And then we'll talk a little bit more deeply in a moment, but let's just give an overview for everyone.
Okay. I'm Kate Bonnycastle. I live in Halifax on the east coast of Canada, and I'm a copywriter. I am a business of one, the leader. Think when you called us a leader in our business, I am self-led and a leader of one. So do you want me to, do you want more, or is that?
No, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. We'll go with that. Jennifer, over to you.
All right. I'm Jennifer Walker-Gates. I am an immigration attorney in the United States. I might have a law office in Austin, Texas. That's where I'm originally from. And I am also now a leadership and executive coach. So 2 businesses and both full of fun challenges. So that's what I'm up to.
Awesome. Thanks, Jennifer. And Stephanie Edward, over to you.
I am the president and founder of Laura Concepts, Inc., a company I started working on full-time just about 15 months ago. So I work with corporate leaders and their people to help them balance their high performance with well-being. I do training, I do presentations, I do consulting. So it's been a fascinating experience creating and leading this company.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stephanie. All right. So let's do a double click on that one. Kate, so that we get the overview. You want to tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of your business and how you help your clients? What kind of pain points or problems you solve for them? And then we'll go from there.
Okay. I really believe that experts should be able to explain what they do in language they love. I've always been a word nerd. I grew up around academics and publishers and writers. But we weren't super physical. The words carried a lot of power. And not all the words were kind words, and there was lots of judgment and accusations and stuff. So as a result, like as a kid, I kind of clammed up. I was super passionate, but you get hurt, and I kind of clammed up. And when my writing shifted from from love letters and teenage angst to very precise, salesy, B2B and B2C, accurate explanations and formulas and stuff. So it was when I started writing for coaches and healers that I got a chance to learn a different language, like this language of healing and hope and kindness. And I really like writing that kind of more, I call it human to human, H to H, not B2B, not B2C. At the end of every website, there's a real person there reading your words. So I got a reputation for writing about sort of intangibles and building trust through language and describing personality and writing with authenticity. And so now I help experts find the exact words they need to land clients that they love, because I really want people to express their own ideas in their own voice, with their own words, with a lot of pride and genuineness and conviction. So those are my clients now, and that is the writing I'm focused on.
Fantastic. It almost sounds like your younger years, where it was on the pendulum, like on the one spectrum of really soft, love, kind, like those kinds of words. And then afterwards, more of the harsh, stringent, and somewhere in the middle, you found this really beautiful sweet spot in the copywriting work that you get to do today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Very
get
cool.
swung around.
Yeah. I swung one way, the other way. It's like, find your zone is somewhere in there in the middle. Beautiful. Stephanie, over to you. Tell us a little bit about your work and kind of give us a double click on that.
Yeah, so I worked in corporate, specifically in financial services, for over 17 years, and I really enjoyed it. I had great opportunities there, worked in business development, risk management, people management, employee enablement, all kinds of good stuff. But financial services is a very high pressure, high stress industry. And I had to learn the hard way how to balance this high performance, because I've always been a fan of good work and doing a great job. But I had to learn how to do that while not sacrificing or compromising my own well-being. And like I said, I had to learn that the hard way, because I honestly thought for a long time that I wouldn't be able to do as good a job as I was doing if I learned to actually manage that stress. I thought that overwhelm was part of the equation. It was inevitable. So I learned to manage that about halfway through my career, and became very passionate about sharing that with people, because I learned that while it was important for me to build my confidence in managing stress and navigating all of these challenges, I also had to build my compassion, because we're human, we're messy. It is not a linear process. Just because you learn something that is honestly never really rocket science, you doesn't mean that you will be able to apply it easily, or it's always up and down. Sometimes you'll remember, sometimes you'll forget. And so I really had to build my compassion along with my confidence. And ultimately, when I created Laura Concepts, I was formalizing what I'd been doing for many years, helping other people do the same thing, build their compassionate confidence, and help them manage the high pressure of their roles, the challenging interpersonal dynamics. So, as I mentioned earlier, I work with corporate leaders to help them and their people become these more balanced leaders with this introspective clarity. They can work through their issues to help them generate these really powerful results, and be engaged and find joy in the work that they do.
Fantastic. It's what I'm loving about both your stories, and we'll hear Jennifer's in a second about her work, is really leaning into your own experiences in your past and using that to really figure out how you could use that to inspire you to build your business around it, but also to serve and help people with it. Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. Jennifer, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I love hearing those stories because, yeah, for me, that's just the thing that inspires me more than anything is hearing hearing when people take hardship and adversity and leverage that to do good in the world. I had um, an early experience as a struggle with addiction. And after getting sober, that was a lesson that was taught to me a lot, is that like the way that you get to keep the gifts of sobriety is by giving them away. And after sobriety, I was able to go to law school. I became an immigration lawyer. That was something that I felt really passionate about for even years before during college. Human rights and helping immigrants who face and overcome enormous sacrifice and adversity in order to contribute to themselves and their families primarily. I've never actually met a client in my immigration practice who was like, I just wanted to learn about a new culture. I just really wanted to explore what it was like to live in the United States. It's always like I needed to support my family. I needed to support my siblings. I needed to help my parents. My mom needed medicine. I had a child. I couldn't provide for them. Like it's always about somebody else. And so that process of becoming an immigration attorney was, really powerful for me as a newly sober person. I did not think I could do something like that. And then going out on my own into business was also, I did not think I could do that. But it was 2009. It was the middle of the housing crisis. My husband was a home builder. He was our primary earner because I was working at a nonprofit at the time. I had left a corporate job that I got right out of law school because that environment did not work for me. And then the nonprofit environment was really fulfilling for a while until I got a different supervisor. And I realized like, it's not about the corporate or the nonprofit. For me, it's about the leadership. And the leadership of the nonprofit changed. It didn't work for me anymore. We weren't earning enough. I had to just take a leap. And so I went out on my own and went into business and started working with a coach because I had no idea how to run a business, zero. I had zero faith in myself as a business person. And after many years of working with lots of different coaches, I finally decided that I see a lot of my colleagues really struggling with the same things I struggled with. Not understanding that business in many respects is kind of instinctual and like if we can if we know how to treat people well and nurture relationships, we can nurture a business. And that's where I am in my coaching practice, is really helping my clients apply the same principles that they bring to their most important relationships, to their work relationships, to their relationships with their staff, and to their relationship with their business itself, and nurturing a business that they really love and that loves them back, right? That lifts them up and provides meaning and purpose for them. So that it's not just this transactional thing that they spend all this time doing and that drains them, but rather it really fills them up with meaning and purpose. So that's how I got into coaching.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think one of the powerful parts of your story as well is when you started even your immigration, your law practice, not, I don't know if I can do this. And I think about business and entrepreneurship, it's very much like that. There's this, this hope and aspiration that everything's going to work out. But inside of you, there's this, either you're just like, well, I'm going to give my best shot and see what happens. Right. There's a part of that, but there's just this knowing that even taking the first step is such a bold and courageous move. And so you did it once. And so you're doing it again, which is very cool to watch and be part of. Thanks, Jennifer. So let's talk about that big decision. Knowing when it was time to start to say yes to your business, to say yes to your practice, your passion project, taking the leap from corporate for Stephanie, and Kate, for you moving from agency work and going out on your own. Kate, do you want to start on maybe what was going on for you at that time before you made the decision, and what was it that helped you say, all right, I gotta do this now?
Well, I don't have a squeaky clean answer for that. It was all very organic. Like I had, after my second son was born, we were living in Vancouver. My husband was traveling all the time. I literally couldn't make going into the old job work. And after my maternity leave with Ben, I just stayed home, and as many hours as I had, I would work. And so I built this business to be able to work from home, to be like copywriting is great because it's more writing than meetings, and there are client meetings, but it's way more just solo work and emails, and I could do everything online. I could do everything in my own time. I could do everything while the kids were sleeping or in school. So it really but it moved along. So there were lots of little decisions along the way, which jobs to say yes to, which what kind of writing to do, which courses to take, and which areas to get better in. It felt less like a big leap than a whole lot of little choices along the way, but it worked really well for me. Like it always was around. It was always a lifestyle business for me. Always, always.
Fantastic. And tell us, how long have you been in business now?
Oh my gosh. It's been well, Ben's about to turn 18, so I guess it's 18 years. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's been and lots of different, I think I've done this out in 4 different cities. So that's the other thing. We move around. Kids have been in 5 different schools. So it's been flexible and good, which is a challenge in itself, but just keep the momentum going. And I have a client I'm working with right now that I met more than that I worked with at Van City 18 years ago. So
wow.
Still my client. So
wow.
Yeah, relationships, right?
That's it. That's what it is. It's relationships. Thank you, Kate. Stephanie, tell us a little bit about what was going on for you. You were in the corporate world in financial services, and then what was going on right before you made the decision, and what helped you make the decision to make the leap?
Yeah, it was not easy. I agonized over this decision. So part of my career, about half of my career, I spent working with business owners. And so had this amazing perspective into what it was like to run a business. But of course, these were all medium to large businesses, and I never got to see them in the early stages, which is quite a different experience. But I was always interested in entrepreneurship, and for whatever reason thought, no, it's not for me. It's not me. It's not me. And then when this idea for Laura Concepts came about several years ago, I would talk about it with my husband, and I always would come to the conclusion, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. Can't give up the salary. It's never going to work. It's impossible. It's impossible. And, he, to his credit, would always say, let's just look at it though. Let's really crunch the numbers. Let's just really look at it. So during the pandemic, I started Laura Concepts, actually incorporated the company, and started doing this as a side hustle, which honestly is what I thought it would remain forever. But I very quickly realized a couple of things. It's a lot more work than I even anticipated, but I also had a lot more interest than I expected to have right off the bat. And so I was getting up 4 or 5 in the morning, working in the evenings, working on a lot of weekends, plus doing this full-time corporate job, which again, I really liked. I didn't want it to sacrifice. I didn't want to sacrifice my performance there. But I very quickly got to a point of, wow, this is not sustainable anymore. So something had to give. And again, I agonized for months over this decision. And ultimately, the decision was made very obvious for me when I asked myself one question. What, looking forward 5, 10, 15, 20 years, if I was to imagine myself at that point, looking back to my current life, what decision was I going to regret? You know, what was I going to regret not doing? And so was it, I'm going to regret leaving my corporate job or not leaving my corporate job and not focusing on my business? Or was I going to regret not closing the door on my business and not staying with my corporate job? Because I had a lot of promising prospects in the corporate job too. But ultimately, you know, the business is my baby, and I just couldn't imagine a scenario where I wasn't going to give it a full chance. I knew that I would regret that forever. So as terrifying as, and honestly, I don't use that lightly, it was terrifying because it's not like I was laid off, you know, in a way that decision would have been made for me. I'm not saying that's an easy situation to be in, but because I'm the one who had to pull the trigger, I basically, you know, I did it anyway, even though I was afraid, as I just knew there was no other option. I had to do it. And that's ultimately where, you know, how I ended up here. It was scary. It was really hard, but I knew it was the right thing to do.
Cool. What did you learn about making that decision for you?
Oh, well, they trust your gut and trust that it will work out. That is the biggest thing is just, if you feel pulled to do something, you need to do it, in my mind. And people were so supportive. I was so afraid that I was working in a bank, I mean, pretty conservative. So I honestly thought I was out of my mind to do this. I thought I'm leaving the pension, I'm going into entrepreneurship, you know, all the stats. And I honestly thought people would say, she has lost it. But they were so supportive. Everyone is so supportive and so encouraging. And honestly, people saw like success and assumed success, where I thought, like, I really thought there were two options. I was going to continue my comfortable life currently, or I was going to be destitute. Like, I thought I was going to live my current life, you know, as a banker, living this great life, my husband traveling, or we were going to be in a cardboard box, like literally. And, you know, my husband listens to a lot of the stuff I say and says, sure, there's not other opportunities there, potential outcomes, like it could end up better. So
Good.
just
Picking up
so
on your
stuck in
coaching
the
skills.
fear. So I guess the biggest thing I learned is courage is not the absence of fear. It's the fear is there, is doing the thing anyway. And that's what matters.
Oh, thank you for that, Stephanie. Jennifer, over to you. What was it like? So again, so you have this practice, you are running it, leading it, helping people in so many ways. And it seems like it's really fulfilling work. Yet then there was this impulse to start your coaching, the leadership and executive coaching piece. Tell us a little bit before what was happening before you made that decision, and then what helped you make the decision.
Yeah, so interesting, because I hear so much of my own story and listening to all of y'all. And it was just, again, that kind of inner gnawing, that kind of little voice that just wouldn't go away. Every time I sat down and got quiet at all, it would be like, you should pursue coaching. And so during the pandemic and sort of it had started before that, but during the pandemic, one of my kids got a pretty significant diagnosis. She was diagnosed with Tourette's disorder, and the pandemic had already turned everything upside down. And then that happened, and my family and I made the decision. My husband and I made the decision to move to Costa Rica, and to relocate our family to Costa Rica. So we had been in Austin for a very, very long time. Our oldest was graduating from college and leaving Austin. And then our middle daughter was not, the school options did not look good for her, where we were, and we didn't know what was going to happen, but we took the leap, right? Like, we've both become, you know, we've been rewarded a lot from taking leaps. And so we took the leap, moved to Costa Rica, it worked out beautifully. We felt like this community where we ended up just embraced us so warmly. And then as soon as the dust kind of settled from that upheaval, I had decided, like, once we have a little more stability underneath us, I'm going to pursue coach certification. And the program I was considering, I looked at a bunch of different programs, and then one of my coaches recommended the Neuro Leadership Institute. And I really, really liked its approach to science, brain science, and helping people using scientific backed methods. I really appreciated that. And so that was, it was a big investment, but I had been thinking about it and planning it for a while. I had saved up, and I just decided that 2023 was going to be the year that I was going to get that certification. Now I'm working on another one. And so it was a culmination of many years. Like, I remember the first coach that I had after I started my practice. And I remember thinking, like, you have the best job in the world. How did you do this? How is this your job? And she was like, I know, it is the best. She was like, I don't even know how this happened, but it is awesome. And it took me many years to realize, like, I think I could do that. Like, I think, it took me a really long time to wrap my brain around, like, I could do some of that. And then it took a few more years after that to get to the certification piece. So it's been building for a long time. And it's really nice to remind myself of that, because it's still, the certification itself is new. And my exposure to the ideas and my thinking about the concepts is not new. And so it's really nice to think back on that and remember the kind of expertise I've been developing over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Love that. Love that. It makes me think of, there's a book, I believe it's called Working Identity by Herminia Ibarra. And I think it was published by Harvard Business Review. And in it, she talks about this idea of transition. She did come out with a newer edition that got published earlier this year. So she might have shifted the years because things are moving a whole lot faster. So, but she talked about this idea of transition. So when we think of this idea of, I could be a coach, or I could be a consultant, or I could be a facilitator or workshop leader or a copywriter, like when we have that idea land somewhere inside of us, that's like, gives us that, oh, what's that might be, from that moment of that idea to, and then let's say the choice to pursue it, get the credentials, to actually doing it, that whole trend, and then seeing yourself in that identity, like really saying, I'm a coach, I'm officially a coach. That start to finish, she tracked it over 5 years. Right. And so it's not like this instant thing that just because we say we're this thing or we want to be this thing, we have to honor the process, that it isn't just this, like, we're not light switches that it goes on and off, but it is this thing that we are working towards. And so let's talk a little bit about transition. Kate, let's talk about, and all three of you will share your transition. And I feel like sometimes I'm always in transition. There's always like this new thing that I'm up to. So it's like, up to this, I'm transitioning to this. But what was transition like for you? And what were some of the things that, the hits and maybe the misses as you were going through it, or just your overall experience? Kate, what was the transition like for you?
Yeah, I guess there's been lots, like
Mm-hmm.
doing this for sort of 20 years, and you need to keep it fresh. So in a way, it feels like I've been doing the same thing for a long time. But then when you really look at it, it's not the same thing. It's a different, different type of website, different type of language, different type of clients. And I'm also really leaning into like helping other people write their own stuff. So whether we call it writing coaching or I'm not quite, I'm still within the 5 years. I'm not quite a writing coach yet. But using, finding my own voice and writing my own stuff. So even though, I don't think my mom could tell you what I'm doing differently, I really feel that there's a different vibe to my business these past few years. Working with you, Finca, it's so, my work is so much more transformational and so much more less transactional. Like, it's not like, here's your copy, go use it. It's so much more pulling out people's words, helping them find their voice, helping them write better. And that's what Almost Writers Club is about like, there's so many people and business people, we wouldn't call ourselves writers, but we have to write for our business. So how do we do that better? Like, and I'm included in that group, right? I'm still learning. How do we stay open and vulnerable and yet practical and efficient and consistent and relevant and human? What was the question again? I guess
I know, I love everything you've said.
So I'm shifting from that. I think as we mature, right, we shift away from the transactions and the must-dos and stuff to the transformations and the want to do, and that, like Jennifer said, like feeling that need, feeling that pull and listening to it. So I guess that would be my transformation, is going from copywriter to copywriting coach.
Yeah.
That was probably the most fulfilling and the biggest transition. And I'm still in it.
Yeah.
I'm still there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, more about that deepening of your body of work and figuring out. Yeah, we'll talk about that next question up. Stephanie, how about for you? How has over the last, I'm going to say 15 months, but I'd say a little longer, because you made that decision, like you had the decision in between transition, but because you were transitioning even before. How's it been since you made the decision and kind of acclimating to this new way of showing up in your work and in your leadership?
Yeah, well, so in terms of feelings, I already talked about the fear. So I don't need to elaborate on that, but there was definitely a lot of fear. But there was this undercurrent of excitement and hope and this determination as well, that I wanted to do a great job of it. It was so exciting, right, to see that I could do anything. And there was this element of awe that I actually did it, because I, for so many years, as I mentioned, didn't think I ever would. And the fact that I did it, even though I was so afraid, I still think, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm here. I think what people don't talk about enough is the fear, but there's also a couple of other difficult emotions that come up during that transition that I think is important to talk about. So grief is one of them. And we know that with every beginning, there is an ending. So with every birth, so whether it's the birth of your new life as an entrepreneur, there's this death. And I had to grieve the end of my corporate identity. Not, I knew I was going to be sad. Of course, I was leaving a team I loved leading. I was leaving work that I loved. But I underestimated how much it was going to be a struggle for me to feel that I was losing such a chunk of my identity. Even no one wants to talk about how much they make is part of who they are, but it is. It is. And obviously when you leave a corporate job to work full time on a business, you do say goodbye to this regular salary for a short time, right? And so there was some grief involved, and I found that it was hard for anyone but other entrepreneurs to understand that, because from my family's perspective and my friends, like, what are you talking about? You made this decision. You must be the happiest ever. But there's still grief involved, because you have to say goodbye to that, and you have to allow the grief to come up, is you have to make room for all the good stuff that you have on the horizon. So there was grief, and then of course there's overwhelm. So even from my perspective, where I got to work with businesses so much in my career, of course, I never went into this thinking I knew everything about running a business. I just thought I had more of an in-depth perspective than I ever than I possibly could. I didn't expect it. The overwhelm of just the choices of things we could work on, just the amount of work, how to decide what to work on next. So there's just a lot of emotions. So joy and happiness that I was doing it mixed in with that fear, that overwhelm, and that angst and sadness and stuff as well.
Yeah, that is so real and so true. Things that we forget about when you're going off to this new adventure. It's like all the good stuff, and it's just like, oh, but there's also this the grief and the sadness of leaving something behind, even though there's something really cool and fun and beautiful on the other side. Yeah, that's a really good reminder. Thank you, Stephanie. Jennifer, as you are embarking on transition and kind of juggling a full-time practice while carving out time to build the coaching and executive leadership coaching practice, how are you managing through the transition, and what are you noticing happening?
It is always about, for me, it's always about choices and planning. Carving out time for the business that is new is really challenging when there's a business, an established business that still also needs, just like Kate was saying, like the established business still always needs plenty of newness also. And what I've noticed for myself is that the process of starting the coaching business and the coaching practice has been scary. Like, it's scary and intimidating to tell people that I'm a coach now and offer help to them. It's scary to write about my ideas. And it's really easy to let the established business that's already successful take over the time that I have designated for the new business. It's very, very easy I find myself being like, oh, but I need to deal with this right now. And it's natural and normal. And so I've learned to give myself some grace and space to be imperfect over time. That has been a long learning for me, to learn to allow myself to be imperfect. So, I really like to set a schedule for myself once a week and then follow it and not make any more decisions about what I have to do at a given time during that week. But I don't always do that. Like, sometimes I let the firm creep in on my coaching business time, and then I have to kind of just recalibrate, reset, recommit. And as I continue to do that and I continue to make progress, then it becomes less scary and less intimidating. And it also, having a community like y'all really makes an enormous difference too. Because the more often I'm able to connect with other entrepreneurs and share honestly and vulnerably about these experiences, the more I realize this is very common. It doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. It doesn't mean it's just part of the process. And so it really allows me to let go of my tendency to make any mistake mean that I'm just not good enough and that I'm not going to succeed. So, yeah, I think for me, it's just allowing myself some grace, but also being committed and as disciplined as I can be, and really balancing the realities of both of those things, and having a community.
Yeah. What I appreciate about that is, When I think of even this idea of selling from love and leading from love and working from love, I know, Jennifer, you really are akin to that leading from love and really using that as a body of work that you're looking to deepen for yourself. I hope you're okay. I said that out loud for you.
Sure.
um, but there's this place of these two parts happening. It's like, I think we're all so used to when things don't go well and we don't live up to our expectations, like we are so hard on ourselves. We hurt ourselves with the words we tell ourselves, how we treat ourselves, what we might put in our body after we do something that we should have did or could have done, like all those things. But there's this place of really coming from the only way we can show from leading, selling, coaching from this place of love is to turn inwards and love ourselves first. And when we can love ourselves first, and the love means that we are with, how you said, with grace, it's grace turned inwards, but it's also the commitment and the perseverance to say, okay, we get back up and we go again. We get up and we go again. But it's with this real honesty that we don't, it's not always easy, but because it's not easy is what makes it so rewarding and fulfilling. I think that's the only thing I can say, right? Like, it's like, it isn't easy. Owning your own business, starting your own practice, going out there, finding clients, figuring out what your offers you're going to make and what you're going to sell and how you're going to help people, because that's ultimately what those offers are about. It's not easy. And we're always just kind of, I got it. I nailed it. I got it. And then you put it out there. We hear crickets. Like, okay, maybe I didn't get it. We got to go back again and do it again. Or we got to just tell more people about it. Like, it's just part of the process. But I remember when I wrote the book, Sell from Love, Jennifer Loudon, who's my book coach, she said this to me. And it transformed how I thought about anything, whether it's the business and the book writing or anything that we do, is we don't write the book, and I'll fill in, we don't start the business because of that thing. It's who we become in the process of it. And so to be the kind of person who writes a book, who builds a body of work, who becomes the coach, who serves people through coaching, who builds this business, that's the why we do it. It's who we get to become because we went through that process. And when we can continually remind ourselves of that, I think the grace that you talk about, Jennifer, and the recommitment helps us kind of pick ourselves back up again, and off we go. We do it, dust it off, and we go again. We go at it again. So thanks for that, Kate. So let's talk about figuring out how to help people. So offers and services. And so Kate, for you, I'll specifically ask, over the years, over the last 18 years, how have you adapted your offers and figuring out what clients need? I think about today and AI, and we can just go plug in some stuff and it can plug right back out at us and give us a whole bunch of words. But I think for you, this whole notion of a body of work has really started to percolate for you over the last couple of years. And I don't know if I said a couple of things there. If you can see the question, can you hear the question?
Yeah, no,
yeah. Can you pick up what I'm putting down here?
I wanted to jump in because what you were talking about, like the parallel to writing, so writing your book or building a business, like that self-expression. So again, in my work, like if somebody had an offer that a retreat that they wanted to sell and came to me to write the sales page, I'm a good writer and I can write the sales page. Oh my gosh, Finka, what you've taught me is it's a process. Like you have to go through, and everybody knows Finka's term, like you have to sit in the squirm. You have to squirm through it yourself. So my shift has really been from like, done for you, here's your beautiful sales copy, all about your retreat, to like, you got to write that yourself. Like I can polish it and edit it and stuff. You got to write that yourself. You have to figure it out. You have to know who your people are and know what you want, like the transformation you want your retreat to deliver. Like that, I can't make that up for you. So and people hate writing because it's squirmy and you have to kind of face your demons to do it. Same like me, and I do it like I write well and I don't like sitting down and doing it. And that's been I think the biggest aha has been that, like, the process, right? And that's the difference with AI. There's no process. Well, the prompting is kind of hard, but you put in the prompt and you get out words. That's a shortcut to all the creativity and the ideas and the brainstorming and the feeling and the discomfort. AI is a great tool. I don't think you can shortcut that process. So my offers and my way of working, like, it's slowly shifting to more about expressing your own ideas and finding time to write and finding the motivation to write, and even just realizing how important doing your own writing for your own business is. You got to write. If your business is self-expression, if you're not just doing it for the paycheck, if you're self-actualizing through your business, you have to work through that process and sit in the squirm and take your time and follow your gut and say what's true and all that stuff. And writing, yeah, again, there's not that I'm trying to put myself out of a job, but you can't hire a copywriter to take it off you can, but I think what the businesses we're in, we can't hire a copywriter to take that off your plate. We're talking about self-expression, not just the words at the end, not the product, right? The process, not the product. So my offers are now much more about building the process and figuring out your body of work and figuring out your ideas. As I do it for myself, it's the process, not the product.
Yeah. And you can help people. So what I know you do as you're helping us go through the squirmy process part, sometimes you alleviate that pressure and say, hey, just give it to me. Let me do it. I know there's that part of it in it, right? But you fix it. But there's this part of you help refine the product, what it looks like at the end. And I think this is the thing with, we can go and find copies or versions of it in other coaches or in other businesses or AI to do it for us. But again, I'll go back to, what Jen Loudon said to me, you're not doing this for the thing you're doing. It's who you get to become
Right.
as a result. And if we get AI or any of these other tools to do it for us, and I know the squirm is there and the pain is there, but that is part of the reward of who you get to become because you're the kind of person that squirms. You squirm.
And you have all the ahas. Like, you don't get any
Yeah.
ahas if you have a copywriter hand you something. I mean, like, from start to finish, just does it for you. Like a blog. Like, if you outsource somebody else to write all your ideas down every week, you don't have any of that discovery while you're writing or while you're thinking or while you're,
Yeah, it's so true. I'll sit down and write.
Shortchange yourself.
It short changes.
Yeah.
I sit down to write, and as I'm typing, I think I'm going to write about something. And all of a sudden I go out and I'm writing about something else completely. There's none of that. And it's if I only have in my newsletter, I have this little piece that I do around beyond the business that I get to talk about life stuff more than just business stuff. If I only do that in a week, my week is good. It's like my week is good. Like that little bit of writing. So yeah.
Quality, not quantity.
Quality.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Agreed. Stephanie, how about for you? How has it been figuring out when you first started out, what offers how you'd be serving people and your clients, and then has it shifted or changed to what you're doing today?
A lot of what Kate shared is definitely resonates and is applicable to my own situation as well. For me, because I started my business as a side hustle, I felt like I really had to be careful about what my offers were because I didn't want, well, first of all, I just didn't have enough time to do everything I wanted to do then. But I also didn't want any conflict with the work I was doing when I was working in a bank, because I was doing a lot of stuff around helping people with their soft skills and communication and all that stuff. So I was very limited there. And then when I left and had this full time, I've mentioned this already, this concept of there being endless possibilities was very exciting. And then you think, oh my gosh, like I could do anything. I don't know how I'm going to figure this out. And so it was very overwhelming. And what, particularly Kate, what you mentioned about sitting and writing and having those ahas, that's been that's been huge for me. Finca, you say working your work and writing and just writing through it and putting out a presentation or a workshop and selling it, even if I don't feel like it's as good as it could be, or it's not exactly what I was going for. Because when you go out and you do deliver that workshop or that presentation, you learn from that and you see, okay, I like this part, but you know what, next time I'm going to do this instead, or I don't like it at all, but it's given me this idea for this other thing. So it really comes back to sitting in that squirm and being uncomfortable and just doing it anyway, knowing that even if it's a flop, it will lead to something else and something better. But the other thing that's been really, really key for me was to learn about myself and really tap into what are my strengths? What do people like about me? What am I good at? You know, what do I enjoy doing? What are the transformations I'm passionate about? And through all of that, through working my work, learning about myself, because let me tell you, this is something I didn't know about entrepreneurship. It is the biggest form of self-discovery and healing, way more than ever seeing a therapist. I mean, you are faced with your stuff day after day after day. And I never would have understood this before becoming an entrepreneur, but it is amazing. But wow, constantly face to face with it. So by doing all that, it's really emerged that this body of work that I call compassionate confidence is something I'm so passionate about. It's something I do naturally, and it's what I've been trying to instill in others for a really long time. So it's that work of self-discovery and just doing it, just whether it's writing the newsletter, doing the workshop, writing for articles or a book that I'm working on. It's just working through it, and it does come, and having that trust that it will, because I can tell you there were so many times I thought I don't ever see how I'm going to have a body of work. And just add one other thing. No one else really has it figured out. So stopping yourself from making these assumptions that you're the only one who doesn't have it figured out and everyone else has these beautiful offers that are selling like hotcakes. Most people, I've had the opportunity to talk to dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs since starting this and having some real conversations, and every single one of them that I've met has said, no, like that workshop that I post about, one person came or nobody signed up, or it doesn't sell, or like just understanding that everyone's facing this stuff as they work their work. You've got these doubts, but it leads to bigger and better things all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the other part of this is we're always working the work. So the work being your work, but not being attached to like what I found. And I don't know if you guys, I'm sure find it too. It's like, no matter, it's like I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall. Okay, let's see if this one works. And then clients, they react to it. No, but how about this? I want more of this. And then you get invited to various things. And so, but our act of working the work is what creates the invitations. So if we just sit back and do nothing, nothing's going to happen. Even if it's not the right offer, even if it's not the right workshop or the right service, the act of doing it is all we need to do. And then from there, some other invitation is going to come out. I remember even in banking, when I was a financial advisor, I'd make calls and I'd call these people, and then all of a sudden this thing would come out of left field and I'd land this bill client. It's like, oh, all we need to do is where our intention is and putting it on the right activities. And then, you learn from those. It's like, okay, this is not a really good use of our time. We start shifting, but as long as we're taking action, we're moving forward with it. And we start seeing some light within that. So thanks, Stephanie. Jennifer, how about you? Figuring out offers and how you can help your coaching clients, because you got it clear on the law practice. And so how do you do it now with the coaching?
I'm in the squirm right now. Can y'all see me squirming? I am squirming. I squirm every time I sit down to think about this, but I, I know that what's becoming really clear for me is that, the way that I've been able to help clients that feels most important to me is really helping them identify and articulate a set of principles, a philosophy that they can rely upon, that they can sort of determine before they're in their emotional crisis, so that they don't just react in the moment to the emotional crisis, but rather they have these skills and character traits that they have practiced on purpose and developed, so that when they're on the other side of that crisis, they can look back and say, I handled that in a way that I'm okay with. Or if I didn't, I know how to make amends for that. I know how to apologize for that. I know how to adjust going forward and make it right. And that is, those are the, I think the things that really called me into coaching, has been witnessing myself as a recovering person. That is what I learned. Like, that's how that is the foundation of recovery from addiction for so many of us. It's just like principles before personalities, principles over circumstances. It's always the principles. It's always the honesty. It's always the courage. It's always being willing to be open-minded, being willing to be willing, service, connection. Those kinds of ideals are fundamental. And so my body of work is unformed at this point, but it is starting to coalesce around the ideas of principles over circumstances, and principles over personalities, so that I can help so many of us in law, especially, so many of my clients are lawyers who never learned a thing about leadership and about managing people. And honestly, like, law school was one of the most sort of hobbled communities I've ever been in terms of like real human connection. It was such a weird social environment. And so I think that a lot of lawyers who are leading businesses really struggle to keep their people. There's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of just unnecessary stress and suffering in so many law practices, because people don't have a set of principles that guide them all the time, that they choose. I mean, maybe they're trying to do something that they learned through their religion or something like that. But if they don't personally, intentionally, and consciously choose those things for themselves, what I notice is that they flounder a lot, they blow up, they react. And I have worked under leaders like that. And it is very, very unpleasant. And so my body of work is not formed. I'm in the squirm.
You're
But
in the squirm.
it's going to coalesce around some of those ideals.
Yeah, which is, which part of that process is really uncovering who you are there to help. What are some of the challenges that they're struggling with, and you noticing and knowing that, that idea of having principles is the way forward. So your body work is built on this, helping people with the way forward, which is have a set of principles to guide you, to lead you that way. If you're leading a practice, you can be a better leader, engage your team, show up healthy and, mentally, emotionally, for your team and for your business. Right. So I love that. I love that. Great. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go around. Let's talk a little bit about self-love, and how has that philosophy really helped you in your business. Kate, over to you.
Let me the self-love. I'm thinking about the sort of the group as a whole rather than the like I talked about sort of the difference between transactions, and then just it's another level of when you're talking about when you're helping clients with real transformations, rather than just, here, let me do this for you, or let me tell you what to do, or sell you this thing. The difference between being in relationship with yourself and with clients. The one thing though, I was like, both of of you guys said about the honesty. That, I mean, in terms of the community, the self and love community, you can't run a business and you can't do it by yourself. Like you can do it by yourself, but you won't survive it by yourself. And have just the honesty, like Stephanie said, a workshop doesn't turn out the way you want it to. You need somewhere that you can go and just say, well, that didn't work out, or here's what I learned from that. And it's just so validating. So those people, I would hazard to say, well, at least in my case, those people are not my family, like who aren't entrepreneurs, and they're not, they're not always they're not your best friend who don't really know what you're doing or just going to say nice things to you just to make you feel better. Like it's that community. It's kind of like a degree of separation, but we're all trying to do the same thing. We all have the same, I think what brings us together so close is we all have the same values and aspirations and reasons for doing what we do. So that's not really answering your question, Finca, but I just wanted to talk about this community. And because we were all talking about getting honest and being honest about how hard it is, how lonely it is, how uncomfortable it can be, but also the wins.
We're not selling this.
I know I'm not selling it. So
I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
But the wins,
I'm
celebrating the wins. Well,
I'm
we're
teasing
ourselves. So making sure like that was awesome. And I love that, and supporting each other. And I mean, I guess that's being forgiven, like the grace and the forgiveness and the validation and the honesty, being able to be vulnerable, being safe, just all of that. I mean, that is the self and love. That's what it is. So the community mirrors that, the work that we do mirrors that, the choices we make and the goals that we set are all part of that, based from authenticity and honesty and love.
Yeah. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. Stephanie, how about you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is the people. Like that is in life, we can't really understand something unless we've been through it ourselves. I think I already said that. And as much as family wants to help, they don't get it. You're in business for 2 weeks. Like, so are you making millions? Like, no one actually said that, but it's just, they don't understand it. So having these people where you can have the real conversations, it's like, so were you a ball of crying loungewear yesterday as well? Like just understand, having these real conversations, but then also hearing how other people are approaching their business and coming up with these ideas. So it's not like, I don't mean to steal ideas, but just to see where they get their inspiration and thinking, oh, well, that's really interesting. Then maybe I could apply that same principle to mine. And then you come up with something completely different. So hearing these ideas, because we certainly can get tunnel vision working by ourselves. So you really need to find your people. And that is, I guess, getting into maybe the next question, but like the word of advice, find your people. You absolutely need it. But more than that, Self and Love program really helped me learn about myself. So thank you. You offered so much advice and in terms of different personality assessments, even, or working through a brilliant difference, or the different workshops that you do really help me not just understand and identify who I am, what my strengths are, but embrace those and work those into my body of work, into my business. And then even things, the practical stuff, like how to price things. I mean, it's so overwhelming when you start and you have this battle of, I don't want to underprice, I don't want to overprice, what's right? And just the guidance that you provide with that. And even if I don't necessarily get it right, understanding like there is no getting it wrong either. We're always learning from that. So that type of guidance and encouragement and how to reach out to people and find clients. And of course, the accountability is huge as well.
Cool. Thank you, Stephanie. Jennifer, how about for you?
Yeah, I was going to say the combination of, it's the loving accountability. It's and being pushed with love to move forward, to create, to make the stuff and get it out in the world, and the encouragement that like this is helpful. Like the world has enough negativity and like all the bad stuff like needs to be balanced out, and we have a job to do, getting some real value and help to people. And so the accountability, the loving community, both of those things together are really magic for me. Yeah, and I mean the community itself is fairly new, but the other thing that I really appreciate, Finca, is like being able to sort of, the way that you just allow us to really get a look under the hood of your business and your experience, is it instills so much confidence in me, and it helps. I feel like, man, I can just trust, and just move forward, because you're the way that you're so honest and vulnerable with us, is really, really wonderful for me. So,
yeah. There was a part of me that, especially coming from corporate, you can't show your mistakes or what's not working, like that perfect performance kind of impression you have to give. And so there was always like, I want to share more, but then I'm afraid, what if that's not the way you're supposed to do it? And then what if they think less of me because this thing flopped or didn't go as planned? But then again, I'll go back to 2019. So 5 years ago, working with Jen, when she started, and I would do it in drips and like places here and there, and where I felt kind of like, okay, we know each other really good, so I'm going to just show you behind the curtain. But with Jennifer, she was like, she was struggling with writing. She was writing a book at the same time I was writing my book. And she said she went out to a cabin and wrote 14,000 words and came back and none of it was good. And it's like, oh, okay. So she struggles too. Okay, great. This is not great, but great. Like I'm not alone. And that's the whole point. I think of this idea is, even this year, I've really focusing in on LinkedIn and being more present and being more engaged and using that as a way to build more awareness about the work that I'm doing in the world. And then for you guys, it's like, I'm going to tell you what I learned, where things didn't go well. I've been sharing my experience over the last 6 months and how it's been going. But that, I think, for all of us in the community, it's so important because Stephanie, as you said, we get ideas off of each other. It's not like we're copying ideas. They're just inspiration points. And it's like, if you just needed that thing to get yourself going, that's all you needed to get yourself going. Like what a gift we get to give each other as part of that. So
we get really honest answers. Like,
yeah,
you posted that thing on LinkedIn. Did it work? Or like, just the questions we can ask, how much, how often, and actually get real answers. Not not engagement. You
actual answers,
real answers and real numbers and real costs. What's like, even we talk about subscription. Should I subscribe to this service or this service? And what does this cost? And how much was your mic? And like all
that stuff. Or I won't say it here, but the expensive mistake one makes.
We all make.
we all share those, So all those things. But I think it's also important because it gets us to come clean with our business. We get to be clean because we said it out loud, and now it doesn't have to fester inside anymore. We can actually make a decision to move forward and then go try something else, right? So we get to be clean with each other, which is so good. So good. I think I also had this years ago, maybe it's about 8-9 years ago. I was part of a group where it was a great group of people, but we all got taken over by performance pressure. And it wasn't like anyone was competing with each other, but because it wasn't even with, oh, they're doing, okay, I better do it. And so it just got like, our ambition took the best of us and exhausted us by the end of the year. We were just like, how did we end up all burned out by the end of the year? But we were feeding off of this ambition from each other, and it wasn't healthy. So again, it's trying to keep this. How do you continue to push and nudge yourself forward, give yourself grace, slack when we need to, but still, how do we pick ourselves back up again and show up and keep going. So. All right, last round, words of wisdom. What would you like to leave everyone with? Kate, we'll go with you, then Stephanie, and then Jennifer.
I would say that if you're running your own business, you get to choose. Like that's the beautiful, there's two sides to that coin. It's a beautiful thing. You get to decide, you get to choose. One of the things that Self and Love has helped so much is which choice, because you can't do everything. So you really help, and the group really helps. I think I help pick out which, like I've got 8 choices, which one to do. I think it's beautiful that you get to choose. And it's also hard. So having this group, like prioritizing and narrowing down the choices in a wise way, like using like Jennifer said, like keeping sight on your principles and avoiding the overwhelm. And don't look at what anybody else is doing. Like you get to choose. So when you were talking, Finca, about being on LinkedIn, and I kind of confess, like, oh, I can't do it this week. I'm off. I'm hiding. I've gone quiet. Because it wasn't feeling right. And everybody backed me up on that. Like that is not advice that you're going to read about in the Harvard Business Review. It's like, never open LinkedIn again. That's not what they're going to tell you to do. But we get to choose. We get to do what feels right, what we need to do to take care of ourselves. And don't look too much at what other people are doing. You got to make your own choices.
Yeah. Good advice. Good advice. Thanks, Kate. Stephanie, how about you?
So I already mentioned a few of them. I'm going to recap them. I'll be fast. So don't make assumptions about what other people, how confident they are, how afraid they may or may not be. We know that assumptions hurt other people, but assumptions also hurt ourselves, because when we hold ourselves to a standard that we think other people are holding themselves to but aren't, then all we're doing is damaging our own self-confidence, our own willingness to move forward, because we're trying to hold ourselves to this ridiculous standard that no one is meeting. So no one has it figured out. Don't question that. We're all figuring it out as we go. I also mentioned how being an entrepreneur is this incredible opportunity to grow and learn about yourself. So embrace it as such. In the beginning, I was fighting that, didn't understand why. I just had all these emotions and stuff coming up, but that's the beautiful part of this process. It's the most incredible experience. We talked about finding your people. Of course, I think we all highly recommend the Self from Love community, but even if that isn't what you want, there are many communities out there. You need to find people, even if it's just one other buddy entrepreneur. I recommend maybe a few, but you need to find other entrepreneurs to talk to, because you will quickly find that the people you might have normally turned to for personal advice, they're just not able to provide the same type of help that you really need as an entrepreneur. The other 2 I want to add is you have to believe that it's going to work out. Even in those times where it just seems so impossible and it seems so difficult, you have to trust that you're doing this for a reason, as I believe everything we do, we're doing for a reason. And that even when you're in that valley and things seem kind of dark, you have to believe that there's light at the end of the tunnel, because your success honestly does depend on that very mindset. And finally, this was something I really had to learn since leaving corporate. Challenge how you measure success, because coming from corporate is very much all about the numbers, whether it's the financial numbers or number of clients, for instance, or when you become an entrepreneur, it's very easy to then turn to things like number of likes, number of followers on social media. And if your success is solely defined on the numbers, you will become very down very quickly. Think about what it is about entrepreneurship that excites you. If you're not an entrepreneur, think about what it is that you would love. Generally, you think about flexibility, being your own boss, making a difference in the world, and write that down and make that your big barometer for success, because that's why you're doing it. Of course, we're all in this to make money as well and have these beautiful, balanced, comfortable lives, but we're doing it for more than that as well. And so you need to keep your eye on that prize, because the other stuff can very quickly get you down. And we're in a society that's so hyper focused on the numbers that it's easy to get sucked into that.
Excellent advice. Excellent. All of them. All of them. Yeah. Exclamation mark,
Mhm.
exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Jennifer, over to you.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna sort of piggyback on what Stephanie was saying, and what my main point, and of course I'm speaking for myself. Now I can't speak for everyone. It's not probably true for every person, but in general, having a business is fun. Getting to be a business owner, being an entrepreneur is exciting. It's fun. It's so rewarding. Yes, it's also terrifying. Yes, it's also hard. Yes, it can be lonely. And in direct proportion to our willingness to go through those things, we get to experience rewards on the other side. And those rewards are real. They're financial. They are in terms of lifestyle and choice and all the making a difference, the things that Kate and Stephanie have already said. So we've talked a lot about the challenges of being an entrepreneur. And I think those are clearly really important to talk about, but I also just don't want to leave without giving some airtime to the joy of it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't think we would all be here talking about this or doing this if it wasn't full of joy, full of inspiration, a way for us to, as Kate says, self-express and self-actualize, use it to grow and develop ourselves, as Stephanie says. And then I think about you, Jennifer. It's really, again, looking at our leadership and our impact. Like, how do we deepen that as our career grows, and like, what's that next leveling, and that's what I see in each and every one of you. When I think about selling from love, part of it is that we figure out who we are and the gifts that we're here to bring. I call them your brilliant difference. And it is about harnessing that work and who you are, what you're here to do, the skills, the strengths, but then using it to work your work. And part of that work, there is this gap in between. It's called the squirm. That's what we help you with, is the squirm. That's what the community is here for. That's what the coaching's here for. We've got workshops that help with that. We've got planning. And what the invitation is at this moment, would love to explore a conversation with you if you're interested in learning more about Self from Love and just the philosophy and more about the program. If you're ready to say, I'm almost ready to make the decision. Again, let's talk about the decision that you're ready to make. Maybe it is time, and maybe this and our community and our group can help you through it and navigating the ups and the downs and celebrating with you as you navigate your entrepreneur journey. I would love to be part of that. A couple of things about the Self from Love program. I'll just kind of rhyme them off for you. The program includes coaching, one-on-one coaching. So you get one-on-one personalized coaching, but you also get group coaching where we all get to collaborate together. Every quarter, we do a workshop of helping you deepen your work. So whether it's about your offers, whether it's about your own brilliant difference, in June. So in the next coming week, so on June 10th, we're doing our next quarterly workshop, which is really focused on the second half of the year. We'll be planning the rest of 2024, reflecting on the first half and really nailing the priorities of what's going to be most important to you over the next 6 months. And so that's the invitation. So it'd be great to, if you're interested in joining the Self from Love program, now would be a really, really great time. So you can take part in that planning process, be with us as a group, and really focus in on what's important and priority for you. And that's about it. So we're here. Again, Self from Love is here to help you really touch, deepen into the work that you're here to do. Hone in on your brilliant difference, help you reach clients that you are just dreaming to reach. I would love to give you the opportunity to work with someone like Kate Bonnycastle to help you find those words that you get to love, to invite them into your programs, into your offers. I will also extend the invitation if you want to learn more about Kate, about Jennifer, and about Stephanie. And you wanted to just have a conversation with them about their business, about their work, and how they jumped off. You guys good with us sharing your contact information? They can reach out and have conversations. Yeah. And again, if you want to hear more about their story, feel free to reach out as well. And thank you all so much for attending. Thank you, Kate, Jennifer, and Stephanie, for being here, sharing your stories and your words of wisdom. I so appreciate you, and thank you for being part of this group and community.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's fun.
Thank you for hosting, Vika. It was really fun. Really
Thank you.
an honor to be with y'all.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Well, there you have it. What did you take away from that conversation? I know I walked away inspired and full of insights and the perseverance and grit to keep going. We received feedback from one of the participants who said that the session was actually therapeutic. What was it like for you? Now, if you want to learn more, I want you to head on over to fincainc.com/coaching so you can learn more about the philosophy and the program that I offer and teach in the Self from Love coaching program. I'd love to have the opportunity to work with you to help you connect with ideal clients, figure out what your brilliant difference is so you can sell with integrity and grow your business and make that meaningful impact you are seeking to make. Now, if you have a friend or colleague who you believe would benefit from the insights shared in this conversation, head on over to fincainc.com/webinar so you could share that with your friends and colleagues. I'd so appreciate it for us to spread the word on what it means to show up with authenticity, connect with clients with empathy, and see that our work is more than transactions that we are selling, that the offers you are here to deliver on are here to add value and a lasting transformational impact on your clients. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to connecting with you. Bye for now.